What is going on, everybody? Happy Saturday to you guys and gals out there in the YouTube world. Man, I'll tell you what. Did I miss anything last night? Did anything go down, or because Twitter was a popping today and yesterday and the day before, and I'll tell you, man, like when it comes to the 49ers, there's never we're never at a loss for content, especially when it comes to the quarterback position and everything that went down last night. I feel like the preseason game was a secondary to everything that's been happening. So I think first, how are you doing, Wayne?
I'm I, I'm good. I'm good, right? Because I have no choice but to be. Um, did you miss something last night? Yeah. And I feel like the news that broke kind of shook the world. If you're into sports,
Yeah.
and so it affected the whole NFL because the way I thought it was just me that felt like the organization like screwed this up.
Yes.
And I'm not, and I don't even want to touch on just the national media kind of like bashing the 49ers organization, but how about other players around the NFL? Like, I feel like they feel the Niners like really mishandled this. Like, they just didn't handle it properly. Now, it's tough because I'm not trying to be emotionally tied to Trey Lance, and it's hard not to because I was all in on the kid. But I do also understand business. But there's a right way, Aaron, to handle business. There's like a right way, and then there's a wrong way. And I feel like the Niners handled it the wrong way. And when you're it's tough, man. If you ever been a manager, it's the hardest thing to do as a manager isn't to run the business as far as day to day, making sure stuff goes right. It's when you got to let people go. You got to fire somebody. You got to that's the hardest part, but that's why you get paid the big bucks. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like the Niners just they didn't do right by Trey Lance. But I do understand 100%, Aaron, that when it comes down to business, it's a dog eat dog world. I think that's the proper term. And unfortunate for Trey Lance, he just didn't fit. There was nothing. And then, you know what? It's not that he didn't fit. I said that over and over again. Then I had to now today you get an exclusive retake on my he just didn't fit, right?
Right.
It's they didn't want him to fit. That's it. That's what it is. They didn't want him to fit. Because if they wanted him to fit, they would have made it fit. So that's the news. It's unfortunate,
It's
but
funny.
it is
My
what it is.
my nephew always says if you're as good of a coach or an organization as you claim to be, then you should be able to, regardless of player, curtail an offense or how you go about calling plays to meet somebody's specific skill set. So when they drafted him, he was so outside what the 49ers usually look for a quarterback, right? They like a
Facts.
pocket guy.
Facts.
They like a pocket guy who makes good decisions,
Qu-
gets rid of
Quick.
the ball quick,
Yep.
facilitates to the playmakers,
Yep.
and stays out of the way, which is essentially what Brock Purdy does.
And he does
Um,
it well too. So let's not downplay our quarterback because Brock
no,
Purdy's our quarterback.
the one thing I watch when I watch Brock is he's so physically unimpressive, right? As a size as a person and just like his overall, I don't know, but yet they easily
He
move
works.
the ball
Yeah.
constantly.
hmm
And people are like, "Oh, they didn't score a bunch of touchdowns." None of those were his fault. Let's just get that out of the way with the preseason. But like
Well, well, I mean,
they
that's
fumbled at the goal line,
well,
and
but he also tripped Jordan Mason before the fumble. So like,
right,
we can't say it's not his fault. It's just unfortunate that, and even if Jordan Mason would have scored, he wouldn't have scored it. It wouldn't have been on him. So at the end of
right,
the day, Jordan Mason led that drive. And listen, it's not a down shot at Brock, but let's just call it like it is. I mean, Brock is efficient. And in this game, and I'm glad we're talking about this game, even though we're going to talk about other stuff. But when you look at this game, Brock was efficient. I mean, we've been saying that. That's the only thing I'm asking for Brock to keep consistent, right? His efficiency, his ability to continue to make the right play, the quick play, the accurate play, things like that. Whether they're going to be runs, whether they're going to be checking out of the run, whatever it is, Brock has to remain efficient. He has to remain top at that game, and that will open up other things for him to do because the first thing you said is what everybody else noticed. Physically, he just doesn't look like he can be an elite quarterback.
Right.
But neither did Russell Wilson, neither did Kyler Murray. I'm just thinking of all the tiny quarterbacks, right?
We we essentially have Marty McFly at quarterback for the
I like that.
for the 49ers, right? We got Marty, right?
But this Marty has killer thighs, bro. Like
Yeah.
his quads are ridiculously big. Like he's impressively impressive with making a play with his legs, which is
It's just
weird.
so it's so you see all the quarterbacks, right? And you see how he's the only one that really moves that offense, and it's at a torrid pace, and everybody's involved. It just has a different feel. Like last year, I kept waiting for him to kind of fall off a little bit, right? Like this has to eventually come to an end. Just how efficiently he gets the ball to playmakers and gets things moving. I I'm really troubled by the fact that they decided that Trey Lance is not as good as Sam Darnold or Brandon Allen because if the Niners lose a quarterback this year in the name of Brock Purdy, they're screwed. They're essentially screwed. It's game set match.
Well,
I do not agree with him, Brock Purdy, excuse me, Trey Lance being designated a third string, and I have a hard time how they try to sell everybody, especially the 49ers announcers and just people how they like to they want to sell something like I think it was John V. He I forget his last name, but he's part of the locker room rant, and he said that they're trying to sell you one thing, but your eyes are telling you another by what you're watching on television. And I just between that and just the way that they didn't address it when it happened, they did a pre-recorded interview with KNBR and just like it just to me for everything that they put into him and for everything that that kid has been through, for things to end that way and then have him get traded, uh, it just leaves a sour taste in my mouth. And Kyle Shanahan said it himself. He goes, you know, I feel like I failed Trey Lance. Like I failed. You did fail him. You did
see,
because
it was bull crap to me though, Aaron. So like, he starts off the statement with that, then he finishes up with being kind of sarcastic with maybe I should have put him in and on that play where he broke his finger. Like that's him being sarcastic. People didn't take it that way, but I know I did because you don't set up plays for quarterbacks to get injured. So why do you mention that? And you know you can't take that back. But the thing
right,
is, he gets injured in a preseason game, so maybe it diminished his play in practice. But how come when he went into the game, the first game he went into, he throws for a touchdown pass? Make that shit make sense. So like it didn't diminish his play on the football field. You just failed at making sure he can get the reps. That's what he should have said. I failed at making sure I got him enough reps because you were stuck on Jimmy Garoppolo. He gave us the best chance to apparently he gave the 49ers the best chance to win anything. It wasn't that Trey, regardless of how raw Trey Lance was, you had to play him, and Kyle chose not to. So that's the failure. That's it. You were paying Jimmy Garoppolo $19 million whether he started or not. And at this point, if you knew you traded up to draft a quarterback that was going to set the franchise apart and be the future, and you don't sit and find a way to get him into the football game, that's on the coach. Don't sit there and blame it on the fact that he's raw, he can't do this, he can't do that. Because here's what confuses me, Aaron. When he was out on the football field, did he look superb? No. But then there were times where he flashed where he can do certain things. So then if I'm evaluating that, I'm going to look at those strengths. I'm going to make him work on his weaknesses in practice, and I'm going to focus on catering around what he's strong at. I mean, that's what good evaluators do. All right, I know you need to work on that, so this is what we're going to practice on. But for right now, this is what you're great at, so I'm going to try to set up. If Kyle's this mastermind, right? If he's the greatest offensive coordinator of all time, or AKA the genius, how does he
Right.
not manufacture the plays around
Right.
his quarterback? And that's where he failed. And that's my issue. Like, that's where you failed. You
Yeah.
failed him and the team. And that's it. Now, that's it. That's it for
John
me.
Lynch even said it during the press conference during his little visit to the booth with Papa and Tim Ryan, that we didn't build an offense, quote unquote, around his skill set type thing.
Oh, let's talk
Which
about it, because there's the controversy, right? The contradicting right there. Go ahead. I know where you're going.
To me, it's like, I don't blame Trey Lance. I don't understand an organization, how they think. If you're in a win now window and you draft a quarterback that is a project who hasn't gotten any reps,
Mm-hmm.
and you know that the only way to get him reps is to play him, but you decide to sit him behind Jimmy because you don't want to waste a year of the window, then why did you draft him in the first place? What was the purpose of drafting him?
Did you hear his excuse, Aaron?
What's that?
Did you hear Kyle Shanahan's excuse?
They wouldn't have a chance to get up into the top of the draft because they're going to be good, right? And they're not going to get a chance to get that close to the number one pick.
That was it. He was like, hey, the next couple of years we were drafted 20. I mean, you want to draft 32 because that means you win. But yeah, come on, Kyle. At some point, just stop capping, bro. There were tons of quarterbacks you could have took a shot at in that draft where you didn't have to trade up the capital to get up, and it would have been even cheaper in the quarterback room, right? Like, you have to pay a first round pick top dollar, especially when you move up to number 3 to get him. You wanted Trey Lance. Somebody wanted Trey Lance, and whoever it was, if it was Kyle Shanahan or John Lynch or even Jed York, whoever it was, and I don't really think our owner cares about the football stuff. I think he trusts whoever he's hired and the head coach to get it done. So I don't think he had any say. But whoever wanted Trey Lance is scared to say that they wanted him, and because they know they messed up. And I don't think it was.
There has to be dissension in the building.
There it is.
By the way he was handled,
Ooh.
the way that he was brought in to a team that essentially is trying to win now, but he knows he's a quarterback that needs reps. So if you're going to do that, then you essentially waste a year, let him play, let him take his bumps, let him screw up, also let him shine, because like you said, when you watch him play, he irritates you, he gets you mad, but at the same time, he does some stuff where you're like, man, if he just had more reps, we would see this with the regularity, right? So it's like, I knew after that game where he did really well in that preseason game, I said, it doesn't matter how good he plays.
It doesn't.
It's over. Mm-hmm. It was done, because you can't turn back time. Speaking of Marty McFly, you don't have a time machine. You can't go back in time
or the almanac.
Say, don't forget now that we know, well, we should have just played him. It was frustrating. And the fact that they try to sell people on what they're watching, when you can see that Darnold and Brandon Allen can't play.
Wait a minute, yo. The only reason why, I mean, other than being a 49er fan and a content creator and whatever, the only reason why I was really tuned into the game, and I'm going to keep it a buck, because I wanted to see Sam Darnold play. I wanted to see Sam Darnold play against the 2s and the 3s, and he looked terrible.
He looked horrible.
And you know what? Here's what's contradicting. There's 2 things. I want to rewind a little bit, because we talked about what John Lynch said, right? How we didn't tailor the offense around Trey Lance. Well, that's cool. I thought that was it. But then Kyle Shanahan last night turns around and says, well, when he was out there starting, we changed the offense for it to work, but unfortunately, he got injured. No, unfortunately, Kyle, you made him run 6 times before he got injured. Like that 3 times, excuse me, before he got injured. Like that was tailoring the offense around Trey Lance. That made zero. That like they're both. How is the GM story, who is supposed to make everything look good, and then the head coach story on polar opposites? How is that on polar opposites, Aaron?
They
So
were
that
there is cracks starting to develop with this organization right now, as far as head coach and GM. And it's happened more than once. If you listen to them sometimes, even within press conferences where they're sitting next to each other, John
they're
Lynch
not
will
on the
say
same
one thing,
page, right? They're
and
not on.
yeah, and then
Yep.
like that's the thing. Like there was some sort of split decision, either whether it was scouts who wanted him, whether it was Lynch who wanted him, whether it was Shanahan who wanted him. Somebody didn't want him. So whoever didn't want him, once they got him, didn't want to put in the work to get him to where he needed to be. And we don't know who that is. It could
Correct.
have
We
been
will. We
Kyle.
will
It could have
never
been
know.
John.
We will never know
Unless
because
somebody writes a tell-all book in 30 years when we're all old men and we're like, oh, see,
exactly.
I knew it.
It's like what's the name of those files that like who killed Kennedy and stuff, and it's been the Warren Seals. It's it's the Shanahan Seals right now.
Oh, the Warren Commission.
Yeah. We will
It would be
never
the
know.
Shanahan Commission.
There it is, baby.
And when they do open it, it'll be blacked out. They'll be like, see, you can't.
We waited all this time to find
then,
out, 75 years to find out it's blacked out. No, just to play devil's advocate though, we do have to, Aaron, our job is to make sure that we paint the picture from both sides. We can give our takes and you know what I mean? But we definitely, the business side is this. Brock Purdy showed up and showed out. Point blank, period. There's nothing you could take away from that. The only thing Brock Purdy did was get injured. Because if you're going to say Trey Lance got injured, well, Brock Purdy got his ass injured too because he decided to pit-pat and hold on to the ball too long because he was trying to dial it up and hit it to Brandon Ayuk. And we could blame Tyler Kroft for the block, but it was a quick play, and it was a great play by Hassan Reddick. But if Brock would have made the quick read, the quick throw, we might not be talking. We wouldn't even be having this conversation.
We may not have won, but I think we had a good chance if that game was close late. Brock just, well, I'll play devil's advocate. There's people who just will refuse to give it to Brock. They keep saying he's Jimmy Garoppolo reincarnated, and I resent that because Jimmy Garoppolo's little run in 2017 was on a team where we had no hope. The playoffs were out of the picture, and he essentially was playing good. And he didn't even play that. If you look at his stat line, he was throwing. It was like he was like 1 for 1, interception to touchdown. So, Brock came in with a successful team on a playoff push, and essentially, just had to not make mistakes, stay out of the way, facilitate the offense, and he did that. And there were games where people are like, "Oh, he just, it's so easy, just throw." Dude, he was the reason that one of the main cogs in the reason why we had that stretch where we played really well. I don't like that people say that it's only because he's got all these great playmakers around him that's essentially, anybody could have done it. Because, we've had other quarterbacks come in with the same set of guys and not be able to get the job done. So that's the point where when I see it from the Brock Purdy side, Brock Purdy did well. He played extremely, like you said, he showed up and showed out. And the Niners had to make a business decision with both quarterbacks. They had money invested in Trey Lance, or that they could get off the books if they moved him. And essentially, you have your starting quarterback playing for free, which allows you to kind of keep insulating him at least the next 2 to 3 years with a really good roster and try to make a run at it and keep that window open. So I understand why they did what they did. It still sucks though, because I was so hyped when we drafted Trey Lance. I thought it was going to be Mac Jones. And when they drafted him, I think everyone was like, wow, the Niners are taking their offense and their team into the new era, like with everybody else. A mobile quarterback who has a cannon, where he can, make off-scheduled plays, but at the same time play within the structure of the offense, kind of like quote unquote Mahomes. And it was exciting. I was excited. We'll finally be able to throw the ball deep, and but then if they try to do that, we can run the ball. And we were all thinking of all these scenarios in our head, and none of it happened. and it's sad. And I feel bad for the kid, but at the end of the day, like if the Niners win a Super Bowl this year, some people will still be pissed,
Nah,
but I
it'll
think it would
all.
erase, I think it would erase a lot. But a lot of people are like, if we don't win it this year, then they like, I don't know, they're going to quit being a 49ers fan or they'll
Well,
be a Raiders fan. I don't know what's going on with that, but
I don't
what do you
think
think?
they'll be. I don't think people. If we win, everything will be forgotten. I
Right.
think the slate will be wiped clean. Kyle will be a genius again. He made the best. John Lynch would be a genius. It was the best move. My only concern is here's the thing: Brock Purdy can't get injured.
No, you can't.
And here's the track record. Let's look at the injury track record. Is it me or does Kyle give up on quarterbacks that get injured after from running? Because when I look at RG3 injury from running, they were on the Kirk Cousins. Trey Lance, same different thing. Even Jimmy Garoppolo was injured on a run play. Remember? He ran out, he was running, and then he tried to
Should.
take the extra yards going out of
Yep.
bounds in the Kansas City game, and he tears his ACL. And they went with him because that they had paid him the money. He had too many guarantees. They weren't going to move on from him because of the guaranteed money. But it wasn't the same when he came back. He didn't have that same fanfare from our head coach when he came back. We thought our head coach was all in on Jimmy, right? And then it started. That's where the division started to happen between John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan. Because then it was, oh, this was John Lynch's guy. You know what I'm saying? And he made the trade happen. Kyle wanted a quarterback. John went out to get a quarterback. That's when that story started kicking off. The moment Jimmy came back from his injury. So I'm wondering if that's it. If Brock Purdy gets injured other than running, I think he'll be fine. But if he does something running and it happens to get him injured, I think he might get the same the drama at the quarterback position will be the same.
Yeah, we'll essentially go into next offseason and then it'll be, oh, they're going to sign Kirk Cousins.
I
Here we
can't do it.
go.
I can't. I
I'm
can't.
so tired.
I
In a
can't.
way, and I'll give them, they have the testicular fortitude to make a move
What a great
and try
way
to
to say
shut up
that.
the narrative, at least for now.
It's,
Trey's gone. This is
yes.
Brock's team. Boom. No, there's no contest between Brock and his understudies. It's Brock's team. End of story. For that, I commend them because they knew they were going to take abuse in the public, and they did. But at the end of the day, like you said, if they win a Super Bowl, I think a lot will be forgotten. There is some people though, like I even with Steve Young winning a Super Bowl, I still didn't like him as much as Joe, and I never will. And that was my personal preference. But I want to say thank you to all day, every day Kim for the $2 super. He says those small quarterbacks have cannons. Yeah, he definitely doesn't have a cannon, Brock, but he's got the one thing that you can't really teach, and that's the ability to see the field and make decisions quickly. That was
For
that.
this
Trey
for this
Lance's biggest issue is really that the fact that as athletic as he is and as monstrous of a guy as he is and all the skill and just raw talent that he has, he doesn't see the field quickly. And I think
I,
part of it had to do with the fact that he didn't have reps, but maybe because
I don't think that was the issue. No.
you don't think so?
No. Because even in the first preseason game, he went through all his progressions. He just wasn't trying to get it to that first progression. He didn't think that the first progression was going to be open when he threw the ball, so he didn't trust it. Then that's the hesitation, right? We talked about his hesitation. Then he went to his second progression, wasn't available yet. Then he was like, "Oh, man to man, oh, I'm about to rip this ball, sack." Right? So like, I don't think it wasn't that he didn't see it quickly. I think he didn't make the first decision. Like that is Kyle Shanahan's offense, open or not. You got to get it to that decision. Like that first read is the read Kyle wants you to throw to. The first option is what I'm saying. Whoever the first option is on the play, because that's what Kyle is dialing up, and that's where Trey struggled. He had the ability to do it. We watched him do it. It's just, and think about what I'm saying, right? Because on the boot actions, the only read is the one that's right in front of you. That's the first read, right? But we've seen our quarterbacks, Jimmy Garoppolo, Trey Lance, Brock Purdy, hit the next read down the field. It's like levels on the reads. Short, intermediate, deep. And so like those are your options. But the short option is the one right in front of you. You hit that read, you got 6-7 yards or possibly a bigger gain, and that's what Kyle Shanahan wants. And I think Trey Lance was always looking to make the big play,
Yeah,
opposed to what did I say? The efficient play.
the easy read. He always wanted to get to the one that could, go for broke and make a big play downfield, which I think what happens too is I don't know if it's the fans or just people in general, like we see what Mahomes can do. He does all this off schedule stuff that doesn't make any sense. Joe Montana was quoted as saying one time, like, everything that you teach quarterbacks not to do, Mahomes does it. But because he does it, he's so athletically gifted, it's okay. If that was anybody else, you'd be like, don't ever make that throw ever again, or I'm going to bench your ass. That
Facts.
you don't do that with Mahomes because Mahomes, man, I hate how good he is
He's
sometimes. Because
earned that though,
yeah,
right? He's earned
yes,
that. I think the issue with Mahomes was in the beginning, he was raw. And they were like, Andy Reid was like, oh man, he's not ready. Eric Bieniemy was probably trying to get his ass in the game from day one. So they went with Alex Smith, right? And so Mahomes had to learn the offense. He had to learn how to make the right read. If Andy Reid says throw it here, throw it there. And I think for Trey Lance, if the organization was willing to back him opposed to throwing him to the dumpsters, then I think he would have evolved into that. But then there's so many different things. Like this kid decided to take it upon himself to get better. What's wrong with that? I feel like he got put in a doghouse for trying to better himself to be a better quarterback. But I tell you what, you know, congratulations to Trey Lance. I'm glad he found an organization that wanted him. You heard Kyle Juszczyk said it feels good to be wanted,
it does.
and I'm hoping that he thrives in Dallas. Just, week 5 is going to be a must see TV. Get ready. Week 5. And I'm not saying he plays week 5, but I wouldn't be surprised if McCarthy puts his ass out there and
Dial
gives you
something
some
up for
Trey
him.
Lance specials. Yeah. Like this is football, y'all. And here's the track record. When ex 49er players play the 49ers, they do damage.
I hope that's not the case. I hope he's good at every game that he ever gets to play, except against the 49ers. But knowing us and the history of our team, dude probably will. The quarterback gets benched. He'll probably come in and throw for like 4 touchdowns and run 100 yards on us. That's just the way it's meant to be sometimes because karma's whatever. Kilts Chronicles Rich made a good comment about Kyle needs a guy who highlights his genius. Trey would have taken Kyle's shine if he succeeded. If Kyle wins with Brock or Darnold, it's Kyle, that dude. If Trey won, it's Trey, that dude. I do agree that Kyle doesn't like to be out egoed. That's why a quarterback like a Tom Brady or a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers would never work in this organization because Kyle has to be the lead dog. He has to be the alpha male. I will say that Brock has a little bit of bulldog in him. How much we don't know, but
Yeah,
that's the
Brock
one
has
thing.
dog. Yeah,
That's the one thing about the Shanahans. I think in general, both of them
yeah.
is they're kind of crusty, moody, hard to deal with type of guys who I don't know. Some coaches acquiesce and let a player take over because they know he's so damn good, and then there's the old fashioned coaches that pretty much have control of drafting and building a roster and calling plays, and they don't want anybody undermining anything that they do, including players. So
Brock Purdy made it clear last night at the presser, like what it's like to be a quarterback here. And he said, basically, I just get out there and do what they tell me to do. That's not for some people that's easy, and for other people that's tough. To me, Brock has zero problems being micromanaged, and other players, and I think maybe including Trey Lance, I think micromanaging sucks. You told me to do. You told me you believed in me, and let me get out there and do what I know I can do. But if I don't do it the way you want me to do it, then there's a problem. And that's more like the narcissistic micromanaging thing. If it gets like let's say Brock Purdy goes and we saw this last year, so I'm not capping, right? We saw this last year. Brock Purdy made a play, and it wasn't the play Kyle Shanahan wanted. And who did Kyle not get mad at Brock? Yes, he did. But it resulted in a touchdown. So like at the end of the day, our coach, it has to go his way or the highway. And, that's kind of like what it is. And if you don't have uh that ability to just be that yes man or whatever it is you got to be to work in this system, it'll never work. And with Jimmy Garoppolo, I think him being a veteran and him just seeing a lot of stuff, and I know we bringing up Jimmy, I think at some point he was just like, F that, yo. I know what I could do as a quarterback. But Jimmy threw Kyle under the bus. Like literally, I'm just out there running what they tell me to run. If it don't work,
I am a person, Wayne, who doesn't take uh, micromanaging very well.
neither do I.
I don't have an ego and
No.
I'm not cocky or arrogant, but if something's doing well and I'm good at it, and you think you have to constantly kind of burden me with the way you do things because your way may be better, and you constantly push it, push it, push it, I don't react very well to it. Uh, I could never be a professional athlete because my brother's like, you got to do what's best for the team. You would never work because of your temper, your anger. I'm like, you're probably right, because there's be no way, especially if I'm successful or I've been successful in the league. You bring a guy like freaking Aaron Rodgers in here and Kyle tries to run that crap.
I'm
He
telling
would
you,
never. He would never deal with it.
people they tried to paint the story Aaron Rodgers didn't want to come here because the Niners passed over on him years ago, umpteen years ago, literally in the draft. That ain't why he wanted to come here. Aaron Rodgers didn't want to come here because he couldn't be a yes guy.
He's not.
He couldn't be programmed.
He's an alpha male.
He just like Matt LaFleur did not program Aaron Rodgers. Like Aaron Rodgers was Aaron Rodgers on that team. Matt LaFleur just had to deal with the ego or deal with it. He had to deal with why? Because Aaron Rodgers remained MVP candidate like every freaking year. Like that's why. So like, and I know that he earned that status, but my point is there's with knowing who our head coach is, there's no way a Tom Brady, a Aaron Rodgers, or any one of those successful type of quarterbacks would have worked because our head coach wouldn't have changed up stuff for that to happen.
Exactly. Kyle wants an extension of him. Purdy's an extension of him. At times, he tried to make Garoppolo that. CJ Beathard, whatever the hell his name is, the other quarterback that sucked really bad. Even the guy that he brought in, the guys that they brought in their first year they were here. Like, and then if you even go as far as to say they might bring in Kirk Cousins next year, those are all Kyle Shanahan type guys.
No way they have the money to pay Kirk Cousins.
And why would you? Why would you bring him in? Like, you have essentially the same thing, but way younger. So, and I, dude, I really am a big Brock Purdy fan. I can't explain why, but
I
know.
No, you
there's
should.
just something about his. There's something about his
dude,
his ego and his bulldog mentality as a small guy. Just
you should be a Brock Purdy fan because Brock Purdy brought that electricity, that excitement back to 49ers football, right?
Yes.
When after the first couple of games with Brock Purdy, you no longer had that gut feeling that we might win, we might not.
No,
win.
I was super confident every time I.
Yeah. He might not.
I have
throw
never
an
been like that, bro.
Right. I understand. This is not in any way, shape, or form saying that Brock isn't the man. Like, we saw him be the man. Like, we saw him. Like, how can you deny what you saw? If you are denying that, then that's a problem. But
because they want to go back to the Jimmy Garoppolo first 5 games he was here and how he paid a bunch of money towards him.
You can draw the correlation, and that's fair. That's fair. But then you kind of gotta wait just to see. Now you gotta wait. You can bring up the correlation. You could bring up that experience. But now we'll never know if it's that until we get into it. So all I'm saying is, I 100% support the players in the red and gold. And Brock Purdy is our quarterback, so he's gonna get my full throttle experience. I'm going to back up the Brock, like that's what it is. But like I said, if you're gonna draw that correlation, you'll never know if that's what it's gonna be like. What if he doesn't do that? What if Brock Purdy comes out guns blazing, and next thing you know, he's back to being that guy. Like at some point, he's got to earn that respect. F the seventh round pick. F what he did in college. We know what he did in the NFL. His first 7 games. It could be a small sample size to where defenses will try to cater and diminish his play. That should happen. If that doesn't happen, that means the defenses are failing their organizations. Those coordinators need to be fired. But that's what they get paid the big bucks to do. So
Yep.
they're going to attack his weaknesses. Can Brock Purdy? The question is, will Brock Purdy overcome that type of adversity when they're coming after him? They're forcing him to go left. They're trying to take away his strengths, and that is we don't know, right? We have to get out there and watch it. So
Yeah.
I'm excited. Listen, I'm excited for Brock. I'm excited for the 49ers. The 49ers haven't scored 30 plus points since. Yeah, like Brock, the moment Brock enters the game, boom, the points go up. Offenses sell tickets. Offenses make the highlight plays. Offenses, it just makes.
They help your defense too, because they don't always have to have a shutout every single game.
Good point, man.
You know, that they could have a game where maybe they go against the San Diego Chargers team that's full of weapons and they get their freaking doors blown in, and yet your quarterback is able to stay, tit for tat with the other team, and you don't always have to have that. That's the thing that with Brock, and last year I can't even say Garcia. It was probably since Young, where you have a chance to win every single game. Like I never felt that way with Jimmy Garoppolo ever. I was like, man, when is this gonna blow up in our face? When is he gonna throw the game tilting pick that's gonna piss me off to the point where I'm gonna turn the game off? I don't get that with Brock. And even if Brock does throw a pick or makes a mistake, I just have this weird feeling about him that he's able to like compartmentalize, move on, and do what he has to do. And that's why I like him as a player, despite looking at him and saying he's just a little guy with a noodle arm who doesn't impress. And there's a reason he dropped in the draft and this, that, and the other. But yet he gets on the field and it's like, it doesn't make any sense. It's not supposed to be like this. That's what I love about Brock Purdy. Allegedly, Steve-O says, if you don't have an ego, you might be mid. I'm pretty mid. I don't have an ego. I'm very egoless.
I mean, you don't got to be mid.
I lost my ego a long time ago when I started on YouTube, and I thought, I cornered the market here. And then I see like people, the really good, the players, and they're like killing it. And I'm just like, oh, so that's what it's like. Okay. My ego it was stomped out very early in the process. So, yeah. I feel you, Tommy Huxley says, trade him to the Cowtricks just pisses me off, though. Never do business with them. Yeah. Out of all teams, you go to trade him to. You trade him to
guys, it's business.
It is business.
You guys have to accept the fact that it's business. I mean, the reports came out this morning saying Baltimore was in, the Bills were in. They offered a 6th round.
Buffalo's that was interesting.
6th round pick, right? So you want the 4th round pick or the 6th round pick? I mean, you got to look at like the way they're looking at it. I mean, they were trying to get as much as they can get for Trey Lance, and I didn't think Trey Lance would be traded unless there was an offer that wooed them away at draft time. Let me make that clear. That was my draft time take. But they made the decision to move on from Trey Lance the moment they brought in Sam Darnold. And so, like, at that point, even though that was before the draft, they didn't trade him at the draft because the offers were way too low. So there was not an offer that wooed him to make the move. They've been trying to trade Trey Lance. It's clear. They've been trying to move on.
There's been news and reports that they've been trying to move him since the draft.
Yeah.
They said in March before the surgery, regardless, this is Brock's team, right? And then the fact that they bring in Darnold, they bring in Allen.
Did they say it was Brock's team before the surgery? Yeah, they did.
Brock was
they said he was the leader of the clubhouse. Yep. You're
So
right.
anybody who was surprised on how things finally transpired once Brock was healthy, you haven't been reading the tea leaves. You didn't even need to read the tea leaves because it was so out in front. They
Well,
said
the
it.
thing was, they never said that he was the quarterback one. They used
Right.
other terminology, and then
So they could backpedal and say, I never said he was quarterback one.
exactly if something was to happen,
It's John Lynch, master politician.
there it is.
John Lynch should go and run for the White House because he can say a lot of stuff and say nothing at the same time. Like he could have a bunch of words and then it's just like, what did he actually just say? He didn't say anything. He's good at that. Let's do a little bit of rapid fire because we got about 20 minutes left.
Let's do it,
Let's
baby.
talk about Nick Bosa, not on the team yet, still not
Huge.
signed.
This is the only issue.
What the hell, man?
It's
Like
the
there's
Niners.
reports that he might not make it that he might miss week one. And I know me and you were like, yeah, that's not going to happen.
Shit.
According to Ian Rappaport, it very well might happen.
Well, I've been saying I think it will. I don't think he plays. I put out my tweet before even Rappaport put out his report that I just got this weird feeling. Listen, dude's in New York with his agent. They got the contract. Nothing happens. Like that right there. Scary. Because I'm saying to myself, Aaron, wait a minute. Like, how hard is it to come to that highest paid number? Like, it can't be that hard. Here we go. You give me a number. You're the 49ers. How much you willing to pay me a year? I'll give you my offer. I'm the agent of Nick Bosa. I want $35 million a year. What would you do? You're gonna counter that with what?
Lower number.
What would be your number? We're just doing the exercise right now.
33, like 33.5 million.
Okay, so then give me 34.5 million per year.
I totally I get you. Like I don't understand where the disconnect is.
The disconnect is that the Niners, Parag and whatever, like they have to just do it. Like it's gonna hurt the team financially regardless. So if you even make the issue is they want to make here's the Niners. The Niners want to make Nick Bosa the highest paid defensive player in the league, but they don't want to put that number and push that number too far out because they're gonna get shit from the other owners. All right, well, let's say Nick Bosa started at 37. And then the Niners lowballed it. All right, how about 32? And they're like, man, get the fuck out of my face. Right? That's that lowball thing. But you know what the Niners did at 32? They still made him the highest. That number, that offer was still making him the highest paid defensive player. The number right now, okay, is $31.7 million. Aaron Donald is making 31.7. Really, 31.8 would be the highest paid defensive player. But if Nick Bosa's camp started that high and then 49ers went that low, even though it was still the highest paid, that's the discourse. And they got to figure that out. And so what's going to be that number? Listen, it's Nick Bosa. I don't want to know what 49er football is like without Nick Bosa.
Bottom Line Sports says it. He said if Bosa holds out too long, our defense is in deep trouble.
Bro,
I think they're in trouble a little bit already just based on they have a new defensive coordinator again, right? Who used to be a head coach. Maybe he's not that great as a coordinator. And then you go look at the fact that, in the preseason, they look like all this depth that we used to have isn't quite what it used to be. And it looks like they're super top heavy as a team. And I'm worried about their interior push when it comes to defending the run, because it seems like no matter what, or no matter who's there, they have the same issues always defending the run, whether it's the outside zone or just inside. I don't know if it's the way that they run that wide nine or whatever, but like it has me worried to an extent. And if you don't have Nick Bosa in there, you have a serious problem because the guy playing across from him is a journeyman or a second-year player. Like they don't have another stud pass rusher on the other side to say, you know what, you're not here. It's okay. We have D Ford or we have, Jadeveon Clowney. No, they have a bunch of also rans that were, like one was picked a little bit after Nick Bosa and has not I mean, I guess you could call him a bust. He didn't turn out what they thought he was going to be. So that I don't want to think about that. And I don't understand. Actually, I do understand. The Niners do their contracts a certain way, right?
Correct.
They always build them up to where they're not financially liable down the road, or they like to have it to where they have outs, or a guy has to play a certain amount of this, escalators, whatever that stuff. And I think Nick Bosa's camp's like, no, none of that. You're going to pay him what he wants, and there's no tricks in the contract. We're not going to give you a home discount. He needs to be paid. He is the best player on your defense, and it's not even close. And without him, that defense is not a top 5 defense. To me, it drives me insane that the 49ers, like, sometimes you have to step outside your comfort zone and do what's best for the organization and get it done.
That's the bottom line. If I'm Jed York, like, I mean, this is where you intervene, Jed. You tell Parag whatever it's gonna cost, get it done. That's what you do. That as the owner, you're responsible for the money, right? So at the end of the day, like, that's what you do. Just get it done. Imagine just not have. I can't even imagine Nick Bosa not playing week 1, because that comment that was put up here a little bit earlier. Look, I'm gonna tell you straight up, Steve. I know Steve Wilkes is probably foaming at the mouth. Why? He took this job under the impression he was going to get the Nick Bosa, Nick Bosa. I'm calling him as a brand, right? And now he has to figure out a way to hide the deficiencies in the secondary, to hide the deficiencies in that middle when of stopping the run. He has to figure it out. I know Nick Bosa is not the best anchor defensive end and stopping the run. That's not his style. But I know they won't be gashing the ball up the middle like they've been doing in preseason if he's out there on the football field. And at the end of the day, the owner or whoever's in that front office, and I'm not talking about John. I think this is above, like, Kyle Shanahan and not John Lynch, because John's the mediator. Like, he has to do what's best for the team and the player at the same time. So John's job is hard. Parag has to figure out how to make the numbers work, not for the player, but for the team. And the agent of Nick Bosa has to make sure the numbers work for the player. So, like, that's the issue. The issue is there's too many people involved, and it's going to be super interesting to see how they come to the agreement. And I'm just praying. I'm praying Nick Bosa's out there to play against Pittsburgh. But what happens if this doesn't go down? There's limited practices for Nick Bosa, and he signs the week of week 1. He's not going to practice out there. You can't have Nick Bosa play a football game, real football game, with no practice.
I just feel like that leads itself to injury. If you have a guy that hasn't played,
especially the soft tissue ones, yeah.
Yeah, everybody calls it contact callus, and I think it's real. It's like being out of work for a long time like myself, and then all of a sudden you're working an 8-hour day out in the heat, walking, and you're dead. You're crushed. And that's kind of what I'm dealing with right now. As soon as the stream ends, I might pass out. I don't know. We'll see. I want to thank you for all the people that have sent the supers. I got 2 from Steve-O, and I got 2 from All Day Every Day Kim. I appreciate you guys very, very much. Let's get to our special teams real quick. How concerned are you about not only the kicker situation, but even the punter situation, just in general? Like, and are you on the phone with Robbie Gould if it comes down to it?
Only way I'm on the phone with Robbie Gould if the injuries to the kickers are severe, and you're talking about a hamstring injury. What was not Robbie Gould? What was Jake Moody's injury? Was it hamstring too?
Quad.
Quad. He had a quad. So quad and hamstring. I think the quad is more like something that's day to day, and it can be fixed, and he can be ready to go week 1. But what would be interesting is if the 49ers come Tuesday keep 2 kickers. So that's where it gets interesting. But the only way I'm on the phone with Robbie, man, is if, like I said, those injuries were going to be sustainable, And, at this point, I'm okay with the rookie going out there getting games underneath his belt. Like he's a kicker. He was a damn good kicker in college, and the only way he's going to be a damn good kicker in the NFL is if he gets the reps. At the end of the day, that's what it comes down to.
Even
Players,
as a kicker.
even as a kicker, because people feel like kickers aren't football players. No, they are. They also need reps. But special teams overall, I mean, it's always going to be a work in progress. I didn't think Mitch Wishnowsky looked good in preseason, but hey, and this is not because of his missed kick. He can't kick. He's not a place kicker. He's not a field goal kicker. He's not an extra point kicker. That is not who he is. We watched that experiment in the real season last year. That's not who he is. The ball's always not going to go in the middle. Always. 100% misses, right? So it was unfortunate. He just happened to be the emergency kicker and the only guy they can trot out. But hey, this is where the 49ers can sharpen their 2-point conversion team, right? That portion. And so that's what you want to see. You want to see them go out there, try for two, see what happens. That way, that gives Kyle Shanahan the option to be more aggressive, sort of like the Eagles coach that will just go for two for no mother freaking reason, right? Or go for it on every fourth down for no reason, right? I would like to see that aggressiveness where Kyle trusts his offense to get it. And maybe we see that this year due to the fact that we do have a rookie kicker. So it's gonna be fun to watch. It's gonna be fun to watch. But again, comes down to how severe those injuries are. And
Kyle did say that they could both miss week 1 and that the
he did.
Niners have a plan
Kyle
B.
Kyle says a bunch of stuff, and at
I
this
said,
point,
you know what? You're
I don't
right.
believe anything that comes out of his mouth. I think everything happens for a reason. I think not Mitch Wishnowsky, but I think the injury to Jake Moody is just weird to me, and the way it
We've seen
happened.
this before with this team.
Oh yes, sir.
Where sudden
Yes.
injuries happen and then a guy is put on the shelf.
Yep.
And then
Yep.
all of a sudden next year he's completely fine. And it was,
Yep.
the Niners like to do this thing where they kind of see somebody and they're like, oh, okay, maybe he's not ready.
Yep.
And then they come up with a bullcrap injury that isn't real and they put him on IR for the
And
season.
notice how it had to be a leg injury. It had to be a quad injury. It couldn't be
couldn't sprain his like elbow or fall
no,
down a flight of stairs and break his
no.
shoulder.
Had to be quad. All he does is kick. So it has to be perfectly. I felt like who started that was Bill Belichick. He would come up with
Gamesmanship, man.
Yeah. So I think Kyle is starting to master that, and we just overreact. I'm not going to overreact to the kicker situation. I don't think Jake Moody is a bad kicker. Again, he's a young rookie. What's going on, David? He's a young
David,
rookie.
what's up, my guy?
So got to give him chance. Got to give him a chance to get out there and get through his first NFL season. Like that's what we have to do.
I want to say hi to Peachy real quick. I'm
Hey,
sorry I
Peach.
haven't been super active in the chat. Thank you for being supportive of the channel. Thanks everybody for who's in here that I haven't called out by name. We're under a little bit of a time constraint. We're trying to get a man out the door so he can get on the road. I like to keep. I'm a man of my word, so that's the only reason. Otherwise, we could hoot holler and waste a bunch of time. I agree with you. We may not beat Pittsburgh with Bosa. Who knows? For a while I was like super bullish on the Pittsburgh game. Like, nah, we got this. Nah, this, nah, that. The way things have kind of went in the preseason with like penalties and just mistakes, looking undisciplined, and then the special teams the way it's been, and then the uncertainty of Nick Bosa, and then of course Trey Lance being traded. I'm not as bullish on week 1. I still think we should beat them. I think we're the better team by far. But, I don't know. I'm not as confident as I once was. I don't know.
The only way I'm not as confident is if Bosa doesn't play. If Bosa plays, that means our defense is going to start fast. Look, the defense usually always starts fast. They ball out, the interceptions, the sacks, all that stuff usually happens quick. The defense usually sets the tone. If Nick Bosa's not there, now you're forcing your offense to set the tone. So you're looking for, on the first drive, a 9 to 11 play drive for a touchdown, right? Because if you get that on the road, it allows your defense to, to play a little bit, little different. But usually the defense sets the tone. Here's the thing. You're still going to have the defense out there. Your starting safeties are going to be out there. They're returning. There's only one new key piece to the defense.
Still got the linebackers.
Yeah, there's only two new key pieces possibly. You got Hargrave, right? And so like and the nickel, which to me is the major concern, because when you look at Pittsburgh, the one thing Pittsburgh does super well is they know how to draft wide receivers. Like it's their specialty. They draft wide receivers and they develop wide receivers. I think that's even more important, right? That's the only issue. Who are they putting in the slot? Because George Pickens is a problem. And it's funny, Deontay Johnson is still there. He can take advantage of our slot situation. You know what I'm saying? Our nickel situation. So I can't wait till we do like week 1 breakdown stuff, because once the 53-man rosters are out, then we can start doing these matchups.
Right now we're just kind of throwing stuff at a wall,
right,
and seeing if it sticks. I definitely am worried about the slot corner, just because going into the offseason, it was Isaiah Oliver, and there was nobody that was going to beat him out. He was the guy. Then you watch the preseason and you see him struggle in stretches. Certain things he does well, like tackling, he's really good at against the run. But like, I don't know. And then you think, well, maybe Demo would be better if he went in the slot and we move Womack outside or Ambry outside. It's I think the injury to the corner that we drafted this year that got hurt,
Darrell Luter Jr.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's on the PUP right now.
Yeah, that would have been something that, that would have made the depth kind of fall into where it was supposed to be. But yeah, slot corner is definitely something that really, really has me up at night thinking about, because you look at our defense across the board, we're pretty damn well set.
We're set,
but the plays.
He's been consistently bad every game. He made all right, let's talk about this. Let's talk about Isaiah Oliver. He made a good play yesterday, but then he made like 3 bad plays. And his worst play was the touchdown pass that was given up because he chose not to rush the quarterback.
Yeah, he was doing all this stuff. Like, make a move, dude.
Go straight to him and force him to make that throw. 9 times out of 10, if you're rushing and attacking me, number 1, you're in my vision. Number 2, it's harder to make an accurate throw with somebody coming at you. So force Duggan to make the throw. Instead, he allowed Duggan to make the throw right over on top of him, wide open for a touchdown pass. And that was my issue. Like he had 1 good tackle, and then I felt like 3-4 bad plays.
Yeah. He plays as like somebody, he makes a lot of bonehead mistakes. But
he shouldn't as a veteran.
Right. Especially all the hubbub that was coming out of on free agency when we signed him. The last thing I think I'll ask you about is where is it? Lost my the running back position to me is really got me kind of thinking. I think JP Mason right now needs to be running back number 2, because I think he's special. So I think he's really special.
You're going to take a guy that fumbles the ball as your running back too.
He's healthy,
but he fumbles. Look, man, it's a tough decision. And I love Jordan Mason, right? I think he's the closing back, right? The guy, to me, that should be his role. He's a guy that's not going to go down on contact, and you can count on him to close out the game and still get you buku yards, right? Now, does he have the potential to be a dope running back in the NFL? He's just, for Kyle Shanahan, it's a different type of running back, right? Because you're looking at a bruising guy, but he did have 1 run yesterday where he cut and got to the outside. I'm like, okay, Jordan Mason, I like what I'm seeing, because that's what you want. As a running back, you want to be able to stretch the field vertically and laterally, right? And when you do it laterally, you're forcing the defense to chase you down, and that's going to make you tired. So I like that. But then he has his inconsistencies this season all of a sudden with protecting the football, and I can't covet that. Like I can't allow that to slide, because in this game, you can say we lost the game on Jordan Mason's fumble because all the mojo would have been in our favor. You know, that momentum thing they got in Madden. We would have been up probably 12-0. I don't think we could kick. So we would have been up at least 12-0 at that point. And then when you got a lead, like 9 times out of 10, and I know it's preseason, but in a real season, a regular season game, when you have like a 2-score lead, you're forcing the other team to make plays, to do this, so you can play a little bit more free. Defense can fly around. They could take more chances, Aaron. So like that, to me, you can't
put pressure on the
ball.
other team to try to match. And a lot of times when you put pressure on a team to match you, that's when mistakes happen.
Yeah.
You know they're going to throw, so it means you could pin your ears back on defense.
Yeah.
Instead of a game that's close, it's 50-50. They could run or pass. Now, I understand.
Bro.
Yeah, I didn't really think about the fumbling, but you're right. Kyle does not stand for that. I'll tell you who is impressed, and I really am. I was a little bit down on him last year. Is Ty Davis-Price looks good, and he was in there with backups. He ain't in there with the starters. That's when I think a player shows me something, is when he's in there and he's behind an offensive line that is sketchy at best. He's not in there with the Ayuks and this guy and that guy who can, make the Niners, the defense have to kind of like make a choice what they're going to do. He looks good. The reason I bring it up is just Elijah Mitchell's always hurt, and I don't know
for sure
what they're going to do.
It could be something simple like, you don't need him to play preseason. You know what Elijah Mitchell can do. I'm sorry. There's no combination like CMC and Elijah Mitchell.
No, I know. I agree.
That was dangerous, bro. Like,
it's really good.
That was dangerous. I mean, it was dangerous. So the good thing is, and so you got to look, man, because last week they rotated. So last week, Ty Davis-Price started, you know what I'm saying? And Jordan Mason came in and spelled him. Along with the veteran, and then what was his name? Hill ended up getting injured, right? So this game, it was Jordan Mason getting the reps, who looked phenomenal. I'm not going to stunt. He just had the fumble, and then he had the stumble bumble for that touchdown because he tripped over on his foot, and then on top of that, he had a great catch out of the backfield, right? Like, nice. So I like what I saw from Jordan Mason. I think the question mark is going to come down to, it's a tough decision. They both make the roster, but it's a tough decision because it's like, dude, do I take the better pass protecting back and push him up the depth chart, but he may fumble the ball? Or do I take the guy with the better ball security that doesn't seem to protect the quarterback? I think it's a matchup thing, and I think Kyle Shanahan will utilize these two guys in their matchups. Here's the thing that I like about both of them. They both put their damn head down and run when it comes to running up the middle, and they both are starting to be more decisive in getting to the outside. So I think that, to me, they're like neck and neck. Who's going to be running back 3 and 4? But that's your running back depth chart. It's those 4 guys. It's those guys. And if Mitchell is healthy, I don't see Mitchell not being running back 2 because I still don't think Mason or Price can do what Elijah Mitchell does when Mitchell is healthy, if that makes any sense.
No, you're 100% right. I'm the type of guy that gets down on injured players. You think Kyle gets down on injured players? I'm even worse. Like, if you can't stay on the field, you're dead to me. And that's horrible. I shouldn't be that way. I should be supportive, but I don't know. I'm a little psychotic, I guess. Speaking of somebody who can never stay on the field because they're always hurt. I wish we had time to talk about this, guys, but we got to get Breezy out of here.
Yeah, he just doesn't. It just doesn't. He just doesn't look good.
He played bad last night again.
It just doesn't look good.
That interior last night, I think, who was it? Him and
it
wasn't Kalia Davis. It was somebody else. It was the other.
You talk about on the big run to Joshua Kelly up the middle. Yeah, they were getting pushed back by 2s and 3s. That's a problem. But again, I'm the only benefit of the doubt that I will give them is that they're rotational players. So just understand.
Be good in your role.
No. It's not that, because last night that wasn't their role. Their role was to play. So that's the difference. That's what I'm trying to say. Like when we sit there and assess these players, we can talk about like, dang, they got pushed back, blah 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 blah. But know that their new role, like Kinlaw's new role, is to be rotational. So if he can come in on a play on a third down where he knows he can dominate because he's fresh, opposed to being out there for the majority of the game, that's
Right.
where he gets weak. And so like
Very
at
good
this
point.
point, it's super rotational. Kalia Davis, these guys aren't going to be the starters.
Right.
Right. And that's what it comes down to. So we just got to kind of wait and fall back and see what happens, man. I saw a lot of mistakes on the defense, but they're
Yeah.
young. Like
I will
Graham.
say that Jalen Graham, yeah, I wish we could talk about it. Jalen Graham definitely took a step back last night. I think D Winters kind of pushed himself into that.
I didn't see anything D Winters did that did anything either. Like these guys are young. I don't expect them to. If anybody's stock rose at the linebacking spot, it was Demetrius Flanagan Files.
True. I'm just kind of over like I don't know, like Aziz was so good, and like people who are Texans fans and people in their organization were like, how the hell did the 49ers get rid of a guy because he's essentially their linebacker one.
They
So
could because the 49ers are investing more into the nickel position because that's what the offenses are predicating for them
right.
to
We're
run.
mostly going against teams that run 3 and 4 wide receivers pretty much
That's why. That
80% of the time. But
right.
hey, listen, everybody. I hate to cut it, but got to get my guy on the road. We're trying to do something on the reg. Uh, I had an open schedule when I was out of work, but things are a little different now, so we're gonna have to figure something out. Don't worry, we will. Breeze,
Yes.
Wayne, thank you so much, man. You make me think differently based off my kind of closed mindedness. So that's always something that I appreciate. And you're always a good dude. So
That could be
uh,
the name like of our type of show, like open minded or something like that. Like
we
we
do.
just
I
we
gotta
just
think of something. I keep thinking 49er legacy because we're both
oh,
old.
I like that too.
Maybe
I-
that like 49er legacy podcast or something.
yeah, I like that.
We'll figure something out. We have a whole regular season and hopefully a Super Bowl run to figure something out. But everybody, take care. We'll see you guys and gals later. I'm sure everybody's got. I'm sure Wayne's got a ton of stuff going on in his channel.
Yeah, man, just subscribe to the channel, put the alerts to on and all, and there's plenty of shows. If you're into fantasy football, we have that.
They have you guys. You have a great thing going on with you
Yeah,
and the
I
nitty gritty
appreciate
crew,
everybody over there. Yeah, the crew is crazy. Shout out to the nitty gritty crew.
especially Peachy. I gotta have Peachy on the channel one of these days.
Yeah, get her on.
She's
She's
very
pretty.
passionate, and I like I how do I say this without sounding like bad, but like I like women that are into sports. Like it's awesome.
Like you mean like
Cause
in the sport though, like
yeah,
not
because
just
my
they just
sister,
watch it because they're.
oldest sister, doesn't like any sports. She doesn't like the yelling. She doesn't like the passion. And I'm just like, how are we related? You know. So when I see a woman that's into it and she has viewpoints and she stands firm on her beliefs, freaking awesome. So everybody, have a great rest of your day. We will see you guys later. Take care. Go Niners. Please on back. Oh, thank you. Maybe I should end the broadcast. Taking forever.
Hey guys, we're still here.
We're still here. Hi.
It's weird.
What's going on here?
I don't know. StreamYard is.
Oh my God. And